beloved faculties of various colleges, alumni friends, students, and all viewers, அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். Hearty welcome to all, and sorry for the delayed start. With the benign blessings of the Almighty and our founders of the university, Dr. Raja Sir Annamalai Chettiar and Dr. Raja Sir Muthaiya Chettiar, the Annamalai University Alumni Association proudly presents its third edition of online conclave during the COVID outbreak. This time it is Education 4.0. With us, we have our revered Vice Chancellor, Professor V. Murugesan, a great academician and scientist. Under his able administration, the university has recently been ranked 5th best state university and 29th best across the country by the Educational World India Rankings for 2020. A right personality here to deliver the presidential address. I welcome him and on behalf of the AUAA, and I sincerely thank him for all his support. Another gentleman we have, Mr. Venkatesh alias C.D. Kumar, an illustrious alumnus of the Faculty of Engineering and Technology, a well-known industrialist, educationist, and agriculturist from Erode. He is with us to deliver the keynote address. I welcome Mr. Venkateshwaran. The main reason behind the program is that many faculties and students find it a big challenge to switch over suddenly to a new format of teaching and learning. So, though the COVID pandemic crisis is devastating, it is making our schools and colleges technologically advanced. No doubt, students and teachers have had to make bigger adjustments as learning has always been in classrooms. Moreover, many of them are not well equipped with technology tools to avail of remote learning. Considering this, the Annamalai University Alumni Association thought of organizing a conclave on this Education 4.0 with experts who are already on the bandwagon of e-learning. We have with us 7 panelists from East and West, from Singapore and North America. Out of them, I am proud to say 3 are our alumni and the rest are their colleagues. You will hear more about them from the moderator later. I welcome them all. Thanks to the organizers, the coordinators of the program, Mr. Gopi, Mr. Shanmuga Sundaram, Mr. Mahendra Kumar, and other alumni who has been a great support in making this kind of series on online conclaves. Before I conclude, it's my duty to introduce the moderator, Dr. C.S. Ratnasabhabadi. He is one among our faculty and also our alumnus who teaches chemical engineering, also the Deputy Director of Annamalai Innovation Center, who plays a major role in training the students of all faculties, particularly on soft skills. I'm sure he will take the program more interesting. Once again, I welcome all of you and hope you will have a fruitful evening. Thanks, everyone. Over to moderator, Dr. Ratnasabhabadi.
Thank you very much, Professor Saravanan. Respected Vice Chancellor, the alumni of the greatest seat of learning, Annamalai University, the viewers who've gathered in large numbers to view this conclave, my colleagues, friends, and students, and the speakers, it's a pleasure to connect with you all this evening. So the theme of today's topic is Education 4.0. Education 4.0 is a desired approach to learning that aligns itself with the emerging fourth industrial revolution, Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 connects the Internet of Things with manufacturing techniques to enable systems to share information, analyze it, and use it to guide intelligent action. It also incorporates cutting-edge technologies, including additive manufacturing, robotics, artificial intelligence, and other cognitive technologies, advanced materials, and augmented reality, of all of which now impact our everyday life. For universities to continue to produce successful graduates, it is imperative to prepare the students for a world where cyber-physical systems are prevalent across industries. Education 4.0 has a deep focus towards sustainable, global collaborative approach in line with Industry 4.0. Disruptive technologies with immersive experience will change the way of life and learning in the future. Education 4.0 is about evolving with the times and for higher education institutions. And this means understanding what is required for the future graduates. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us a galaxy of experts in the field of higher education who are going to deliberate how institutions of higher learning from the Orient to the Occident have grappled the technologies to make themselves Education 4.0 ready for a few years now. Thanks to COVID-19, the schools and institutions of higher learning in India are driven to leave behind the conventional face-to-face teaching and to embrace online teaching by connecting to the students through various online platforms. May I now have the pleasure of presenting the Vice Chancellor of Annamalai University, Professor Dr. V. Murugesan. Professor Dr. V. Murugesan completed his BSc in 1971 from Joseph College, Tiruchirappalli, and obtained his MSc in chemistry from Loyola College in 1973, which is affiliated to the University of Madras. He obtained his pre-doctoral degree, MPhil, from the University of Madras and PhD in 1989 from Anna University. Professor Murugesan is a researcher at the University of Pittsburgh, USA during 1992-93. He has over 40 years of teaching experience and more than 30 years of research experience. His trust area of research includes porous catalytic materials for fine chemical synthesis, semiconductor photocatalytic, mesophorous, and nanostructured materials for pollution abatement, and physical organic chemistry. Under his supervision, 35 scholars have completed their PhD degree, and over 100 students did their master's and MPhil thesis. Professor Murugesan has published more than 220 research articles in SCI journals. He has been awarded the Thomson Reuters India Citation Award 2012 for research excellence and high citations for his research articles. Professor Murugesan has traveled widely across the globe in connection with participation in international conferences and as a visiting scientist under exchange programs. He has served as an expert on statutory bodies such as UGC, AICTE, DST, CSIR, TNSC and ST, and Science City. He has completed many funded research projects from various agencies and has organized national and international conferences. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now present the Vice Chancellor of Annamalai University, Professor Murugesan, to deliver the presidential address. Sir, please.
Good evening and good evening. I welcome on behalf of Alumni Association, on behalf of Annamalai University, all the alumni, the viewers and the panelists, and also the organizers of this live streaming, Mr. Gopi, Mr. Mahendra Kumar, and all others. And I have to say very special appreciation for the organizers to select a very apt topic, Education 4.0, the education for the future, which is a very important and relevant topic for discussion today. India needs Education 4.0 in order to tap the potential of Industry 4.0. Analysis of McKinsey Global Institutes revealed that more than 50% of job activities are going to be automation, a phenomenon driven by the requirements of Industry 4.0. Therefore, education is going to play an important role in ensuring skill readiness. General education along with vocational education have a critical role to play in making graduates ready for industry. Companies in India are now associating with the educational institutions for implementing Industry 4.0 technologies. To realize Industry 4.0, Education 4.0 is inevitable and it is very, very essential. Education 4.0 should bridge the demand supply of skilled persons in the digital economy. Education, according to me, Education 4.0 has two important components. One is Curriculum 4.0, another one is Faculty 4.0. Let me touch upon the Curriculum 4.0 for a couple of minutes. In most colleges and universities in the present day, teachers are still teaching subjects in a traditional way with the same old course content and the same old pedagogy. These traditional methods put our graduates in the back seat. Curriculum should have relevance to the local, regional, national, and global needs. Hence, design of Curriculum 4.0 should include skills such as problem-solving ability, creative thinking and innovation, digital skills, teamwork, ICT skills, activity-based learning, project-based learning, very importantly, design thinking, industry internship, case studies, laboratory embedded theory courses, project work, a component of research. Provision should also be made for higher order thinking. It should be also necessary that the curriculum should impart soft skills such as communication skills, writing and comprehension, leadership qualities, interpersonal relationship, teamwork, professional ethics, and more importantly, moral values. Curriculum should also be an outcome-based education with the course objectives, course outcomes, program-specific outcomes, and more importantly, graduate attributes. One of the graduate attributes which I feel is lifelong learning. The curriculum of science, engineering, agriculture, medicine, and all other faculty shall also include a couple of social sciences courses and a few value-added courses so that the students will find employment opportunity. The students shall be given flexibility to choose elective courses cutting across disciplines to develop a holistic graduates. Courses such as artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, industrial Internet of Things, machine learning, big data analytics, data science, business intelligence, programming languages such as Python programming, R programming, cyber security, virtual reality, blockchain technology, etc. should find a place in the curriculum. The curriculum for any program should be dynamic. Elective courses can be introduced by an individual or by the department, and later, if necessary, can be approved by the Board of Studies as well as the other academic bodies. I wanted to emphasize that the curriculum should also have provision to do 30 to 50% of courses through online platforms such as Swayam, Swayamprabha, Coursera, NPTEL, QEEE, etc. Massive open online courses are available in plenty. We should use, the students should be encouraged to use massive online courses through various platforms. Bloom's taxonomy should be an inbuilt both in the curriculum as well as in the assessment pattern. After discussing about the curriculum, Faculty 4.0 is also important. You may wonder what is Faculty 4.0. To meet the expectations of the students in Education 4.0, the faculty members should meet the challenges of the future education. They should impart all skill sets as well as the domain or the technical knowledge to the students in the respective discipline to make the graduates employable, to create entrepreneurs. We have to create now students who can be able to give jobs providers but not job seekers. In order to fulfill the above requirement of students, technology-enabled learning with the modern delivery are very, very important. Faculty 4.0 should go hand in hand with the curriculum 4.0. Teachers should focus using technological applications that aid cognitive learning abilities. Learning outcomes should be based on adaptive learning techniques. Intelligent digital assets will guide the teaching concepts. Teacher-student interaction should be based on smart approach, and the teacher-student interaction is very, very important. In order to make sure upskilling the teachers to meet the demands is very, very essential. Teachers should also align with the requirements of Industry 4.0, namely the course material, assessment pattern, examination, etc. should synchronize with the ICT technology. Technology enabled or ICT enabled teaching learning is very, very important for teachers. Teachers shall necessarily adapt to the changes for proper implementation of Education 4.0. They should have the right kind of attitude, proactive approach, commitment, and dedication. I am sure Education 4.0 will fulfill and also will implement the Industry 4.0 in the near future, not only in this country, but also across the globe. Whereas the digital learning is also becoming very, very important in Education 4.0. With this, I once again emphasize that in order to realize the dream of Industry 4.0, the brain behind this Industry 4.0 Germany, which is being adopted by almost all the countries across the globe, in order to implement Industry 4.0, Education 4.0 should be modernized and it should be adopted across all the universities and colleges. With this, I thank the audience as well as the viewers for this opportunity. Thank you one and all. I once again thank the alumni for the very important conclave, Education 4.0, the future of education. Thank you very much. Vanakkam.
Thank you very much, sir, for throwing wonderful insights into Education 4.0. May I now take the pleasure of introducing the keynote speaker of the day, Mr. D. Venkateshwaran. Mr. Venkateshwaran is a distinguished alumni of Untitled University, where he obtained his bachelor's degree in mechanical and production engineering in 1984 and went on to pursue his master's at Wayne State University, United States. A very interesting personality. One can find in him a myriad of qualities in perfect combination. He's a keen academician and was instrumental in establishing Congo Engineering College, Europe, and owns the credit of propelling it to greater heights. Wanted to make it as one of the premier education teaching schools in Tamil Nadu. He hails from a family of entrepreneurs and thus has a natural enthusiasm for entrepreneurship. This acumen of his is exemplified as he heads the Venbro Polymers, which manufactures polypropylene woven sacks, fabrics, and tea bags. He also runs a highly accredited motor car service center for a brand named Maruti, which is in tie-up with the Suzuki of Japan. He's an avid agriculturist and founded Ulavan Producer Company Limited, an initiative to e-auction agriculture produce, which is first of its kind in the country, for which he is now at the helm of affairs. He had been the chairman of Confederation of Indian Industries, Eurozone, and presently the chairman of Madras Management Association. Ladies and gentlemen, I now present Mr. Venkateshwaran and request him to deliver the keynote address. Sir, please.
Thank you, Ratna Sabha. Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Murugesan, distinguished faculties for the day, organizers of this program, friends at my alma mater, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to you in the respective time zones. First of all, I would like to thank all the organizers for giving me this opportunity to deliver this keynote address. I am restricting my relevance of my speech to Education 4.0 in India, because there is still, to my experience, I find there is a huge difference between India and the rest of the world, particularly the developed nations. The phrase change is permanent is in education too, particularly since the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic. Almost every interaction has turned to be video conferencing, including education. However, this cannot fill it all. Let us recall the past glory of India, the days of Nalanda University, the days of Gurukulam style of education. But somewhere down the line, we have lost it for very many reasons. Today's education system, this is my personal view, seems shattered and directionless. However, it is not too late to pick up the threads and reward the next gen. You will all agree with me that our experience shows learning is not limited to guided learning that is being taught. We in our life have learned through other means too, beyond books. We have learned through observation. We have learned through inquiry with the experts at libraries, internet, and so on. We have learned through doing things ourselves. And finally, it is not only for teachers, but for each of us, we have learned through teaching and sharing our knowledge and skills. In today's scenario, we as academicians have been constrained to think that all students in a given classroom are equal. But is it true? This has to be broken primarily among all levels of teachers and academicians. Each class has fast learners, medium pace, and slow learners. As teachers, we need to categorize them and lead learning process accordingly. In this scenario, today's video conferencing will definitely go to help them. Moreover, in India, we have not considered skills as complementary. Parents and society at large think that vocational skills are only for the underprivileged. And people, though are skilled, but are considered low. Parents do not engage their children in running the house, helping their mother to do the dishes, to cook, to sweep and mop the house, to clean the toilets and bathrooms, to maintain the garden, to maintain the vehicles in the house, to help their dad in his profession, and so on. But let us all recollect that whatever confidence that we have in us at this position has been gotten only by the skills that we have developed and not just out of the knowledge that we possess. Somebody had once shared with me a phrase in the social media. Ignorance is dangerous. Knowledge without responsibility is very dangerous. If this situation persists in the Indian system of education, we are and will be facing a chaotic society. Parenting has to be included in all higher education curriculum, and life skills have to be prioritized. Each family is losing its value that has been nurtured by its early generations. This loss is being extended and demonstrated in the society too, and that is the current state of affairs, particularly with our alleged leaders. Teachers and institutions have to realize that they are developing the future. Any error in coding is paving way for disaster. While the younger generation have their future, they are our future. Our future, pleasure and pains are dependent on them. Each of us need to be leaders ourselves, to be followed even without a title. We need to build in excellence into our DNA. Primarily, we need to teach them how to learn rather than what to learn. I dream of a changed society, learned by all means, doing things with deft hands, labor being appreciated and valued, facilitating every species to serve its lifetime and purpose, living in harmony in pursuit of achieving the purpose of this birth. leaving behind a glorious globe for the generations to come. Let today's presentations, deliberations, and question and answers bring in a change in each of us to make this dream a reality in our lifetime. Let us change to become the changeless. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Pleasure listening to you. So thanks for sharing your thoughts. Now we have friends from Eminent Polytechnic who's joining us. It's a team of 3 people. We have our alumnus, Professor Sundaram, we have Professor Andy Lee, and Professor Kenneth Sen. I now introduce Professor Sundaram to the viewers. Sundaram is an alumnus of our university, did his electricals and electronics during 1988 and 92, did his MS Engineering Management at BITS Pilani, and his Master Education at University of Melbourne during 2018 and 20. He previously worked as a senior engineer with Tech Semiconductor from 1999 to 2007, and a section manager with IM Flash Singapore from 2007 to 2009. Mr. Sundaram was a lecturer at Eminent Polytechnic and is presently a senior educational specialist. He's an academic mentor, enabling colleagues to excel in teaching and learning strategies. He has passion for designing engaging lessons for both face-to-face and online classes. He teaches electrical facilities and computer-aided design. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Sundaram from Eminent Polytechnic.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ratnasabambuli, for the introduction. I would like to thank all the organizers for this opportunity, and also all the audience who are patiently waiting through this technical difficulty. I also would like to thank my IT friend Nacho Subramaniam, who helped with this resolving this technical difficulty. Thank you. I would like to share my screen now. So let me share my screen. Okay. Okay, let me. Okay, I am not able to. Okay, files. Let me check the files. I am having a little bit of difficulty. Let me.
Is it a PowerPoint presentation, sir?
Yes.
So what you do is you just open the PowerPoint presentation on the desktop and then try sharing your desktop.
Okay, I put it in the files now. Are you able?
No, I don't think it will work. You try to open it on the desktop first.
Yeah, I opened already the desktop. You hold on. Let me check. Okay, it's open the desktop now.
Okay, now give a share screen.
Yeah, I've shared the screen. Okay, can you make me a host temporarily, please?
Mahendran, sir?
Or co-host.
Mahendran, sir?
I somehow cannot. Okay, never mind. I think I will speak without the PowerPoint.
I'll do that, sir. 1 second. I'll speak to him.
Okay. Okay, I'm trying to open the PowerPoint. Okay. Okay, never mind. I think I will start without the PowerPoint. It's okay. So, okay, thank you all. So yes, I did my electrical and electronics in 1988 to 1992. So I still remember those days in the hostel where I was in Mullai Illam, RSA block, New block, and RMH block. During those days, in the mess, you used to have this bread and jam in the mornings on Sundays, and then omelets. So bread and jam was part of the mess bill, but omelette was considered as an extra. So there's a person called extra writer who will take the notes and then add on to the mess bill later. So these are all some things that I can remember. And then there's this place called Tamarai Illam, where a few of our brave classmates would visit until the entrance to meet the girls there. But for palams like me, I only saw Tamarai Illam in the Annam University maps. So yes, so okay, I hope I can move on now. Okay, so yes, okay, are you able to see the PowerPoint now? Hello?
Perfect.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Sorry for the trouble. Okay, so now I want to introduce about Nean Polytechnic. The three speakers today, including myself and Mr. Kenneth Sim and Mr. Andy Lee, we are from this institution called Nean Polytechnic, which opened in 1963. And then there are 9 schools in the Polytechnic. The Polytechnic offers 36 diplomas. At any point in time, we have 14,000 student population, and we have a very strong network of 145,000 student alumni. So Nean Polytechnic aims to promote love for learning for the students, and also we want to equip our students with the skills so that they can join the workforce for the jobs. I also want to tell in this point in time, there's a little bit of connection between Alumni University and Nean Polytechnic. Dr. Aingaran, who used to be a professor in Alumni University, also worked in Nean Polytechnic. And our K. Natarajan sir's daughter, Dr. Kanna, is also our colleague now. So this is a little bit of link between Alumni University and Nean Polytechnic. Okay, moving on. So, my topic today will be engaging students in classroom and online environments. Okay, I will give you a short preview of my presentation. So I would like to give you some, inform you about the changes in the industrial landscape. Then I will update you about the conversion of the computer-aided design module, which was changed from a face-to-face module to an online module 3 years ago. Then I hope to give you 3 design strategies for online learning design. And not forgetting the basics, we still need to engage students. So for me, I believe that engaging students is the basis of education. So once you have the students engaged, automatically they are very eager to learn, and they perform well. And finally, I will give you 2 vital behaviors of great teachers. So what are the different changes that are happening in the industrial landscape? We can do a reality check. There's this website called willrobotstakemyjob.com. So this is a place where we can do a reality check. So if you are a registered nurse, for example, there is only a very, very small possibility of 0.9% where your job will be taken over by a robot. But if you are doing a data entry keying job, just only keying without much thinking, then there's a 99% possibility of your job being taken over by a robot. So that is the danger of the current industrial landscape, where technology is taking over in many areas. Okay, so moving on, I would like to show you this slide where there are top 10 skills. I hope you can see the top 10 skills. Okay, recommended by World Economic Forum. Our Vice Chancellor just now mentioned that our students need to have soft skills. So can someone confirm you can see the 10 skills, the slide that you see? Okay, I think, okay, Yes. So I have a small activity for you. So now your activity is for you to choose one of the skill that you think is in the top 3. So that is the activity for you. There are 10 skills I mentioned. I'm going to give you 20 seconds. You can tell your friend, or you can write down in a paper, or you can comment in YouTube. Your task is to just choose one skill that is in the top 3. I'm going to give you the answer now. Okay, the answer is complex problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. So that slide will appear in a few moments time. So I'm having a bit of delay in the PowerPoint, but never mind. So that's okay. So this is you can give yourself a round of applause if you got it correct. So that is how we need to ensure as a teachers, we need to ensure that we are training our students for the right skill set. Okay, I will move on to the next slide now, which is going to be this bird here. Okay, yes. So this bird is sitting on a branch of a tree. We can consider this bird as a student, and then this branch of a tree can be the career, or can be a business, or can be a job opportunity for the student. Okay, now my question to you all is, when the branch of the tree breaks, will this bird die? Yeah, I purposely gave you that pause. So it is not supposed to die, because we are supposed to, the bird is supposed to have the skill of flying. So it is precisely for this reason that Neon Polytechnic embarked on making one of the subject in each of its diploma into a 100% online learning module. So here I'm going to show you my next slide. Okay, yes. So I had the privilege of working with a team of lecturers to convert existing face-to-face module or a subject to a fully online lesson in the year 2016. So I'm giving you 2 pictures here. So we got the students from all the way, we taught the students from drawing lines, circles, semicircles into very complicated floor plans throughout the semester. So originally this was in a face-to-face environment. Our team of lecturers, we converted this into a fully online lesson where we created videos. Okay, we considered making the videos ourselves, or we wanted to also use the existing videos that are currently easily available in the internet. So we considered, and then we realized that it is better for us to create our own videos. So we created our own videos called using this a tool called Screencast-O-Matic, where teacher we will create videos where students will be able to watch. And then moving on, we thought when we all are making these videos, students are able to learn well, and why don't we get the students to create the videos themselves? So that was another progress in this online lesson. And if you can see in the slide here, if a student undergoes reading, then he can only remember things for 10% of the time. He can only, the knowledge transfer is as low as 10%. But if a student is able to teach others, the knowledge transfer, the ability to regain the information is as high as 90%. So we got the students to make the videos. The good thing about this is when students made good videos, actually most of the time they did better videos than us. So we told them, thank you, you did a good job. And we also will be acknowledging your work, and we'll be using some of your good videos for our further teaching. So moving on. So what students did is they watched the videos, then they did the quiz. The quiz, we made it multiple attempts. So if like just now, Mr. Venkatesh mentioned about fast learners, medium learners, and slow learners. So we want to give everybody an opportunity. And this quiz, even though the questions are wrong, this is given as multiple attempt. And then students are required to submit a AutoCAD floor plan at end of every week. So the complexity of the drawing will become higher and higher as the week progresses. So that is the plan. And what we did is we gave entire 1 week of time for the students just to complete 3 hours of work. So this created a anytime, anywhere learning scenario. So moving on, definitely students will have problems when they are, even though they watch the videos nicely, they did the quiz, they will definitely have some issues while they are completing the drawing. So what we did is we created a platform for us. It's considered as a discussion platform for peer learning. So in this place, they can ask a question, answer a friend's question, or comment on the entire AutoCAD exercise. So in this way, we created a community of learners. So it was not just Sundaram trying to answer the students' questions. So if one student asked a question, other students were also able to answer. So I found this very nice, and students were not only asking questions, but they also posted photos, videos, and they were also able to like each other's post, which was considered very nice for the learning purpose. So I would like to summarize 3 strategies which we considered that even after changing to online learning, the performance of students in this module, computer aided design, was in fact better. And then also students learned the module experience survey, there's a feedback given by the students, also got better. And then the students not only gained the CAD skill, but also received the digital competency. So I'd like to summarize 3 strategies here. Contents creation by students, anytime, anywhere learning, and a discussion board for peer learning. So nicely, it also forms a word called CAD. So these are the 3 strategies I would like to tell people to consider while you are designing lessons for your own modules. So that is how we converted this CAD from existing face-to-face to online module. Okay, now I would like to move on. I want to tell 4 keywords to all the teachers here who are listening. So what are the 4 techniques to engage students? This is nothing to do with online learning. These are age-old techniques. It's as old as 20 years old. Okay, I want to tell you CRCR. So the first C stands for choice. So I wanted to give you all choice by giving you the 10 soft skills promoted by World Economic Forum that are sought after by employers. So whenever you give choice to students, our brains are designed in such a way that the brain gets activated. So even a student who is not engaged will try to become engaged the moment you give him a choice. So even for projects, you can give him project A, project B, and let him choose. So the engagement level increases. So the first word is choice. The second word is making the entire lesson relevant. So instead of starting, okay, today our lesson will be on car engines. So instead of starting your lesson like that, if you can show the big picture first. So tell them about the car, then where is this engine located in the car. So make it relevant. So give the students a big picture view first, and then you can talk about the car engine and you can talk about the car brakes. So this is how you can make it relevant. So the next word is relevant. The third word is a very important word, is competence or ability. So you can see the picture here that there is a 0 to 10 levels. For example, if your ability of your average ability of your students in your class is at level 5, for example, you always try to challenge them at level 6 or level 7 so that they will try to answer your question. So this keeps them very, very engaged and motivated. But if you question them at level 3, for example, then they get bored. Wow, this teacher is always asking very simple questions. They'll be bored. But if you are challenging them with questions at level 9, then they might be disengaged. They will get bored. So it is very important for teachers to gauge the average ability of the students and ask them right questions to keep them engaged. So that's the second C. And then increasing relatedness. Yeah, so when you give group projects, So students get engaged because they want to chit chat with their friends, and then they want to do a good teamwork. So that is another opportunity for them to get engaged. So I want to summarize here. This is my important slide for today's sharing. CRCR: choice, relevance, competence, and relatedness. So let me move on. So, okay, now Sundaram, you have told us about the 4 words. How can we do it online? So just now also our VC mentioned about Bloom's taxonomy. I'm sure all the teachers here are aware of Bloom's taxonomy, but now I want to introduce, maybe some of you are aware, this is Bloom's digital taxonomy. So in this Bloom's digital taxonomy, we can create plenty of activities online. So depending on the category, whether you want to teach students remembering, understanding, or applying, depending on the category, you can choose the various activities. For example, in our AutoCAD experience, we got the students to make their own videos. This is considered as filming. Filming or creating is considered the highest level in the Bloom's taxonomy category. So that is something I want to tell you. So moving on, I want to tell you the 2 vital behaviors of great teachers. So 2 vital behavior. Okay, there's this person called Dr. Ethna Reid. She's a US teacher. She did 14 years of research for the different types of teachers, and she was wondering how come some teachers are able to do great teaching and some of them are not unable to teach. So what are the 2 vital behaviors? Vital behaviors means measurable, observable behaviors. So after 14 years of research, they came out with 2 vital behaviors. So no need to remember 200 things. So teachers here, just remember 2 things. I will tell you now. This is the secret of great teaching. The first one is use praise more than punishment. So for example, I gave you an example here. So you can say, well done, Ramesh, you got 100% in the quiz. So that is the praise. When you compare to, 3 people have failed the quiz today, so you show an angry face. So if you can use more of praise and less of punishment, it makes your teaching great. Actually, it not only makes your teaching great, it also gives you good mood. So in future, you can do a better job for your next lesson. So that's the first secret of great teaching. Second secret of great teaching is frequently alternate between testing and teaching. So example, if I have a 1-hour lecture or 1-hour class, so I would definitely will try to interject with many questions. It can be verbal questions or it can be online Kahoot quiz in the classroom. Another strategy which I'm trying is you can even don't teach students anything, but start straight away with a quiz, with a test, with a small quiz. So then they will know that, where they stand, whether they got 3 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. Depending on that, they will be starting to be more engaged, and this will make the students curious. Asking questions is definitely an important part of a great teacher's job. Okay, how can we do this online? So we can have this self-marking quiz for online lessons. You can make the many options. You can make it single attempt or you can make it multiple attempt depending on what is required. So moving on, my closing remarks. So teachers, we are in a position to make a difference. My recommendation is make technology your friend. If I can tell you that my colleagues as old as 65 years old, they are also picking up who did not know how to operate the Zoom lesson, for example. Now they are becoming more proficient. So 3 words: learn, practice, and apply. Definitely, if you have a positive mindset, you can definitely do very good online lessons. So I understand that the student profiles in Singapore and India are very different, but these 4 words that I taught you and 2 vital behaviors of teachers is definitely going to help regardless of all the different types of student profile that we have. And finally, I would like to say, since Alumni University days, my Sunday morning breakfast is also bread, jam, and omelette. The only difference is we do not have an extra writer in my home. I thank you, everybody. So this is my email address, sundaram71@yahoo.com. I would like to see and answer any questions later on. Thank you for the opportunity. Well done, team. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sundram, for sharing pedagogic how to be an efficient teacher. Hope this would benefit the entire teaching fraternity. Hope we set our own benchmarks and beat it every time. Now we move on to the next faculty from Nanyang Polytechnic. Ladies and gentlemen, I now introduce Professor Andy Lee. Mr. Andy Lee graduated from Nanyang Technological University with a bachelor degree in electrical and electronics engineering and National Institute of Education Singapore with a postgraduate diploma in education. He's been a full-time lecturer with Nanyang Polytechnic since 2015. He's currently also serving as a senior education specialist and conducts pedagogical training for staff. And in the areas of vocational training, he specializes in industrial drive systems, microcontroller, and automation. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now present Professor Andy Lee. Sir, the floor is yours.
Okay, good day, everyone. I'm Andy from Nanyang Polytechnic. Firstly, I would like to thank Annamalai University for the opportunity to sort of like share my work on project-based learning. So allow me to share my slides. Okay, just give me a moment. Okay. Are you seeing my slides?
Yes, yes, clear.
Okay.
You can go ahead,
All right.
Professor.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So just some background info. So this module that I'm teaching is called Automation in the Mechatronic World. And it's taken by year 2 students, year 2 engineering students. Okay. These students are, their academic abilities are above average. And the lessons is conducted as a 3 hours block. And it's done asynchronously. That means the students will watch the pre-recorded videos and they will work with the hardware that is provided to them, and they can seek help from the lecturers if they are stuck while doing their learning through the hardware. Okay, so let me just move on. So this is the learning outcomes for my module. Basically, the essence is I want the students to be able to analyze the problem that they encounter while they are doing their projects and implement solutions through critical thinking and their problem solving skills. Okay, so this is how the student learned before COVID-19 pandemic. So the learning takes place in the lab. Unfortunately, the lab we have space constraint. So there are some issues here which I'm going to explain. So first of all, students will work in pair in the lab, and when they are working in pairs, I do realize that there is a small percentage of students that there are these cases of social loafing. That means students that are depending on their teammates to deliver the work, but they themselves will put in minimal effort. So there's this social loafing issue that I find it very difficult to address in the lab, especially when it's pair work. And a lot of time is wasted, okay, because of this play field. I can only put 3 play field in the lab. So students would have to queue up and wait for their turn to test their robot on the play field. So this one, it really takes a lot of time being wasted, and because it's timetabled for 3 hours, sometimes the student couldn't complete their work. And I know that the students are enthusiastic, but it's quite sad to see them leave the lab without being able to complete their work. So during this COVID-19 lockdown that we have in Singapore, so everyone has to prepare for this home-based learning. So I did ponder upon whether I should use simulation to replace the hardware. But after much consideration, I think it's better for me to get the students to bring the hardware back home so that they could, by working with the hardware, they could actually, it would help to develop competencies such as critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity. So which was mentioned by Sundram, the top skills in by this WEF report. So I think somehow I was very fortunate that things fall into place. I managed to get the students to come before the lockdown on 7th of April, and they collected the hardware just in time before the semester starts on the 20th of April. So I was very thankful for that. And okay, so the module, the way I designed the module is as such. Okay, I know that from this learning principles from Mayer, he states that learning is actually a process. Okay, and learning takes place in the mind, so we can only infer from students' learning artifact and performances. And learning is not something done to students. It is something that students, they themselves need to do. Okay, and the third point is learning involves change in knowledge, beliefs, and attitudes. To me, this is just like a growth process. If they don't grow, they don't build up their knowledge, they don't build up their skill over time through this learning, then obviously it's not doing them any good. I mean, they are not really learning. Okay, so the way I designed the module is as such for the home-based learning. So it is a 3 hours lesson every week. So students will go through 1.5 hours of active learning activities. So I will do instructional videos to show them certain things, certain concepts that they can learn, and certain things that they can try out using the hardware. So these are just very small little tasks to sort of like build up the concepts that I want them to have before they attempt their performance tasks. Okay, so they will spend 1.5 hours on their active learning, and then the other 1.5 hours on performance tasks. And this goes on every week. So, but then the way I scaffold it is such that as the week progresses, the difficulty or the challenge in the activities in their performance tasks is gradually increasing. Okay, so that later I will share with you a theory behind this, why I designed it in such a way. So ultimately, the first 3 weeks, they will be able to get the concepts, and they will be able to learn whatever they need to learn and use it for their projects. This is a major project that lasts for 3 weeks, which the students need to apply the concepts that they have learned in the prior weeks, okay, to complete the challenging project. Okay, so this is how I designed the lesson on a weekly basis. So from the learning outcomes, I derive the concepts, the bite-sized concepts that I want the student to learn. And maybe concept 1, it has an activity for the student to try. Concept 2, there's an activity also. Concept 3, there's an activity. Concept 4, there's a small activity. So, but then all this activity is not graded. Student will just try and emulate what I show them on the instructional videos. So the real test is at the performance task. So the remaining half of the time during the weekly lesson, they will do their performance tasks. And that performance task actually will blend in all these concepts. And it's just an assessment to see how well they have grasped these concepts, grasp and apply these concepts. Okay, so after they have done their performance tasks, students will need to take a video, okay, to show me as like learning artifacts. And this performance task video, right, is actually a good way to assess their understanding on their concepts and their competency in programming the hardware. So they will upload their videos in Padlet, and this is where I will give them the feedback, and also is for me to sort of like grade them by watching their video. So you can see in this video, I mean in the picture on the right, there is stickers with numbers labeled. This is to identify that the students are actually working on their own robot and they are not getting their friends to do it. So I really need to authenticate that this is the work of the student itself. And I also got the student to write their names on a piece of paper before they do the filming of their video. It's also for authentication. So another way for authentication is, especially when students are doing their screencast videos, like what I'm doing now in Zoom. So there's a talking head here, which I know for sure it is the student themselves that is doing it rather than someone else. So these are ways that I try to, because sometimes when we are doing this home-based learning, we are not sure whether the work is really the student's work or not. So these are some little ways that I try to use to eliminate cheating cases. Okay, so this is the project that I got the students to do. So the students not only brought back their robot, they also brought back this A0 size playfield, which they would open up at home, and they will run the robot on this playfield. So the task here is basically the robot would have to start from position 1 and do the line tracing all the way up to 19. And along the way, it needs to pick up an object from number 4 and place it at 13. But in between, there's an obstacle that they need to avoid. So this task is actually quite challenging. And that's why I gave the students 3 weeks to work on it. And there are marks awarded for different types of challenges in the earlier map that I show you. So different challenges, they will get certain marks. And of course, the more difficult the challenge is, the higher the mark is, that is awarded. So students, basically, they are very enthusiastic when they are doing this. And I found out that they are very participative, and they always seek out opportunities to find solutions to solve their problems. And basically, how do we cultivate enthusiastic students? So if you want to cultivate interest in learning in students, one way is to give them authentic tasks. Okay, like what Sundram mentioned earlier, I think it was like making the activity relevant to the students. Okay, that is somewhat like an authenticity in the task. And to me, one more thing that is key is to give them the space and time for learning. So if I compare this with the face-to-face learning before the COVID-19 pandemic, students are restricted with a 3 hours block in their timetable. And once the 3 hours is up, they couldn't, those who are slower, they couldn't really showcase or sort of like show their capability in terms of programming it, and it's quite a sad thing. But then when they are doing it in the home-based environment, they are able to use the time, plan their own time. Even if they take up more than 3 hours for that week, it's also fine. At least it's like if they have a problem and they couldn't solve it, I think it will, and time is given for them to solve, I think they will be motivated to do it still. But the problem is sometimes if the time is not given, then it sort of like spoils the motivation. So during this process, there's lots of aha moments because students, I allow the students to, if they encounter problems, they can actually WhatsApp me, and through the WhatsApp conversation, I actually noted that they actually learn a lot. And the bottom here, this is just a reflection from the student. So one thing I try to withhold providing them guidance. I want them to try it out on their own first. So after they have tried out, then only I'll come in and show them a better way of doing it. So in that way, they will learn, but they learn it from the painful way. Rather than spoon feeding all the way, I actually want them to learn the hard way first, and then give them the correct way or the appropriate method in resolving the issues. Okay, so of course, using hardware at home, there bound to be some constraints. Okay, one of the things that I encounter is what happens if there's faulty hardware components? How do we resolve this? And that would actually put a stop to the progress of the project. So again, before the COVID-19 pandemic, all these tasks is actually done by the lab technical officer in testing and replacing the faulty hardware components. But then in HBL, the student they themselves, they had the opportunity to diagnose the faulty hardware components through remote guidance from the lecturer. And once the component is confirmed to be faulty, a working component will be mailed to the student. So at home, I actually keep a few spares component just for this case. And luckily, for the past 8 weeks of home-based learning, I only need to mail out four components. So thankfully, it's not so problematic for me. Okay, so now I want to talk more about the learning tasks. Okay, how do we balance the learning tasks in terms of the challenge and the skill of the students? So, okay, maybe I share with you this theory. If the learning task, if we set the challenge too high and the student's skill is not built up to a high level yet, the student's skill is still at the lower level, then it will create anxiety. But if the student's skill is high and the challenge of the task or the project is low, then student will feel bored, okay, bored with the activity. So somehow there is a need to balance between the challenges of the task and the skill of the students. And we need to hit the right spot, or just now what Sundram was mentioning is something like a scaffolding process. Okay, and I think what Sundram mentioned just now was matching activities to their competence. And that is what I'm trying to do here. And there's actually a theory which is called the flow theory by this guy from Russia, I think, Csikszentmihalyi. And it says that if we can make the student in this flow, it will be a state of concentration and engagement that can be achieved when completing the task that challenges one's skills. Okay, so I will just like to round off my presentation just to share 2 reflections of my students. So I got the student to reflect on what they have learned throughout their first 8 weeks of home-based learning. And I'm quite heartened to share with you that one of them mentioned that it encourages critical thinking and problem-solving skills. And also there's this, and by putting the student in the position where real-world factors can affect results and gives the student the freedom to explore different methods and solutions. And this is instead of having tests with ideal conditions and strict learning structures. So this is another form of learning, which is much liberal. And another student mentioned that the opportunity to solve problems using concepts that they have learned through the hardware help them to attain a better understanding of the concepts themselves. So this is just, I'm coming to the end of my sharing. So thank you very much. So over to you, Sabah.
Thanks a lot, Professor Andy. It was a wonderful presentation, and just went through the challenges and motivating people to think and do the troubleshooting on their own. It gives them a very good confidence level, improves their confidence levels. So hope things will go on like this. Thanks a lot, Professor Andy. Now let's.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So now let's move on to the third faculty from Nanyang Polytechnic. We have with us Professor Kenneth Sim. So Kenneth Sim, after having worked in the financial, real estate, and facility management industry for more than 15 years, he decided to make a career switch to join the education industry in 2006. Professor Kenneth joined Nanyang Polytechnic as a lecturer. His interaction with the students further propelled him to pursue Masters of Social Science in Professional Counseling with Swinburne University of Technology, jointly with one of the largest medical group in Singapore, Parkway Group of Hospitals. Professor Kenneth is certified as a qualified clinical psychotherapist in 2011. He later joined the Ministry of Education as a full-time school counselor in a neighborhood secondary school before returning to Nanyang Polytechnic again in 2014. With a passion to introduce pastoral care in the School of Design and Environment. Professor Kenneth believes that students are not only intellectuals, but are also social and emotional beings. All these dimensions interact to impact learning and performance. The mental, social, and emotional health of students have a huge bearing on the way they perform at school. Basic healthcare needs are key foundation for school success. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Professor Kenneth. Professor Kenneth, floor is yours.
Right. Thank you very much, and good morning, good evening to everyone. Before I start, I'd like to thank the organizer for allowing me to share a topic that is actually very close to my heart as an educator, as an academician, and that is actually mental health, right? And the challenging landscape of education across the globe today has made mental health even a greater topic of concern. And like it was mentioned earlier, I've shared that I hope all educators share with me the very fact that all our students are social and emotional beings. And that is why taking care of their mental health is just as important as we take care of the academic progression, right? And as I was listening to the Vice Chancellor and the keynote speaker, I'd like to add another dimension to what they have actually said. And that the other dimension that I'd like to add is mental health, right? And academic progress cannot take place without a good mental health. Yeah, and I have the same vision as me. Without further ado, I'd like to share with you some of the slides that I have actually prepared. And I'll share with you what are some of the things that we do back in school in order to help the less proficient, the less privileged, the mentally challenged, the emotionally challenged students to overcome their challenges so that effective learning can take place, right? Okay. Are you able to see my slide?
Yes.
Can my slide be
Yeah,
seen?
yeah, very much clear. Go ahead, Professor.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Of myself, I'm actually a senior lecturer, just like Mr. Sundram and Mr. Andy Lee, with Niam Polytechnic, Singapore. Though I have a lot of slides, not to worry, but I will take you through very quickly. After having worked in the secondary school with the Ministry of Education as a full-time school counselor, I am even more convinced that to be an effective lecturer, we have to take into account our students' emotional mental health. Thus, I'd like to present today a topic called The Mind Matters. An understanding of the student's world is a key to designing effective teaching pedagogies. I mean, we can have very excellent teaching pedagogy, but if we do not pay attention to our students, I don't think they will be able to learn effectively, because every one of them comes to us with a different story. So I'd like to share with everyone how I have actually lived out a nurturing environment in school. Now in Singapore, we had done a survey, and we realized that there are more and more children and students who are facing emotional disorders and many different types of behavioral disorders. And these figures are not dropping. On the reverse, they are increasing. One of the studies in 2010 shows that the number of potential patients with mental health disorders among children to be more than 80,000, as the population below 15 years stands at 878,000. And that was in the year 2010. And I believe over the years till now, 2020, the figures has doubled. And we have also done various survey, and there was a newspaper article that was actually revealed that more than 1 people living in Singapore will suffer some form of mental very likely. And we have formed actually a support group called CHAT. CHAT was actually formed, and CHAT is actually a national youth mental health program helping young people between the age of 16 to 30. This is a time where we are facing an identity crisis, and many of them will actually be questioning a lot of their own identity. So there's a lot of issues will come in, and that may sometimes generate mental disorders and mental challenges, right? The government has also set up 5 child guidance clinics in Singapore. So any child that is actually below the age of 19, they will be able to go to the child guidance clinic in Singapore at a very subsidized rate to receive treatment and to receive was done. And the child guidance clinic has actually set up 4 different areas, which is of main concern. One is for autism services. Next one is for students with ADHD, attention deficit attention, evaluation and network development services. So these 4 areas are the concentration of the child guidance clinic in Singapore. Even in UK, we have seen that students are cracking under stress, because education today is actually, I'm sure all of you will agree that it is actually very stressful and it is very challenging. I'd like to share with you one of my favorite quote, which says, "The most useful asset of a person is not a head full of knowledge, but a heart full of love, with ears open to listen and hands willing to help." And I really wish that all my fellow educators and academicians out there will be able to share this quote with me and live with it. And I think it's such a beautiful quote. Mr. Heng Swee Keat, who is currently our Deputy Prime Minister, our former Minister of Education, believe very much in a value-driven education in Singapore. And he has said then, when he was the Minister for Education, the mental health and the special education needs of students affects all aspects of the school community, from student engagement and academic achievement to social adjustment and even staff morale. People like you and me who are teaching, I mean, if we have students who are not feeling well in class, who have some mental challenges, I'm sure we will also be very much affected. right? So these basic healthcare needs are key foundation for every school success, whether it is primary school, secondary school, college, high are trained and they are taught that every teacher is a caring educator, and the core academic and student development program is very important. To wear many hats in order to bring about effective teaching. The ability to identify, remove, or minimize any obstacles that impedes learning is a prelude to formulate effective teaching and learning strategies for effective learning to take place. Probably I don't have enough space at home for me to study, especially during this COVID-19 period. For some of them who stays in a very small flat and they have maybe 5 school-going children in the family, very simple things like that. You can design to the best of your teaching and learning pedagogies, but these obstacles are the ones that is going to impede learning. That is why the government has made it compulsory for every primary school, secondary school, and junior colleges to have a minimum of 2 counselors, if not 1.5. And where does the other half come from? Sometimes it is actually a part-time, a retired in the area of counseling. They come on as a part-timer and to help the full-time counselor. Now, counseling skills today are very much needed for an ideal teacher, and in many ways have become intertwined with the classroom teaching, and I believe for teaching duties today. And it is a culture that needs to permeate the entire school. I'm going to share with you some of the things that in school that I have kind of introduced and gotten the support of my school management and from colleagues like Mr. Sundram, who works with me, and he is very, very supportive of pastoral care and student development. Right, students today are actually very different from yesterday. So what is the implication then for educators like you and me? We have to move with time. We cannot stay back 20 years ago, 30 years ago and say time was never like this. Why is it today we have such children, right? So we have to move with time. Now, the next thing is because of the managing, it helps us to manage a changing landscape of the students. And I'm not sure, but in Singapore, this is a very common term. This says that children today belong to the strawberry, the banana, or even the durian generation. In other words, they don't have the resilience. They break down very easily, just like strawberry, just like banana, who are very easily crushed, right? And it's even more, we see a rising number in special education needs for educators. Very often, the problem that we see is never a problem. It is only a symptom of something that is much deeper, as stated by Virginia Satir. I'd like to bring to you and share with you this iceberg. Neighbors facing some sort of panic and anxiety disorder because of the challenging assignments that the teachers have given them? Or have they been feeling traumatized even when they were primary school, they were bullied, or even in secondary schools when they were bullied? And now when they come up to the Institute of Higher Learning, they are also very much of being bullied. So the very Going right deep down to the bottom of the iceberg sometimes will be able to help us journey with our students very much. Say, for example, I'd like to show you. Recently, I had a conversation with a colleague, and my colleague kept complaining to me, my students are not handing up their assignments. And what I simply said was, it is not about a student not handing up his assignment, but rather, why was the student not able to hand in the assignments that should be causing and worry for all of us? And not why the student is not handing the assignment, but why the student was not able to handle in the assignment. Now, in Ngee Polytechnic, we believe in developing our students holistically, and that makes pastoral care even more important. And I'd like to share with you how we live out a nurturing environment, at least in my school. First of all, I set up a counseling room in my school to allow parents, students a safe environment to talk. And one principle I'd like to share with all of you, never embarrass your student private room. We also have posters everywhere to ask the students, are you in need to talk with someone? If you are, you can contact any of the para-counselors over here, right? I have even created the form for students who fill up, and they can just hand in the form and drop into the pigeonhole of any of the para-counselors if they are too shy. The first step to me identifying my students' problem is, before the start of each new semester, I will do what I call an emoji profiling test, and I do it using Google Form, and especially important for freshmen to find out simply how important and in class we play the role of a lecturer, advisor, as well as a mentor. If we see our students cutting ourselves, what is the next thing that we should do? It is something that we should be asking ourselves. Ever since my returning back to the school, I've gotten the support of the school management to make it a point that it is timetable that every lecturer is required to speak to the advisees every week, and a 1 hour time is allocated officially in the timetable. So that gives us no, at the end of the 15 weeks, we would have finished seeing every of our students. And it is here sometimes that you will be able to pick up challenges that the students might be having. I have developed I work with hospitals, I work with professional associations to help manage my students' mental, social, and emotional issues. Lecturers are the key. We lead, we care, and we inspire. We are role models, and we are students look up to us for support. I will organize this workshop for my colleagues, equip them with basic intervention skills, such as the psychology of managing youth, students and self-teachers help. I also equip them with basic skills of cognitive behavior therapy, and these are medically proven models that will be able to help us to detect what is the challenges that our students are facing. And these are some of the basic models that I help and share with my colleagues: how to do problem solve, how to set goals, how to do feedback, how to do task setting, how to ask exception questions, and how do I go about doing this. If a challenges that you are facing, if it is not broken, don't try to fix it. But if it works, then do more of it. Well, there's a lot of theories behind this solution focused brief. Sorry, the video quality is poor, right? Can I leave this slide for the people to see? Because I understand that the connection is bad.
Sure, sure, Kenneth. Okay, you can just run the slides.
Is the connection better?
Oh, no, it's still breaking.
Okay,
your video
I'll
got
just run the slides.
your video was frozen, and the voice is also breaking, Professor. Professor?
Yeah, I'm
I-
having an issue here.
I think Kenneth, it's okay. You can just conclude using maybe because
No,
of the
I'm very clear here. Are you able to see? Are you able to hear me now?
We can see the slides, but your voice is breaking.
Okay. Maybe I will just close the slides because it's quite self-explanatory.
Yeah, Kenneth. Yeah, just please run the slides. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me actually better now?
No, no, Kenneth. The voice is very, very. I mean, it's breaking actually.
No. Very bad.
Can we go with the conclusion? Otherwise, we will share the slides.
Yeah.
Participants.
Yeah.
That is fine.
Kenneth, you may want to
Sure.
make some concluding remarks. Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to share this with everyone.
Professor Kenneth, before you
This
conclude,
conclusion.
can you just stop sharing your screen so that the bandwidth is not affected?
Maybe this is something that I'd like to leave behind. Okay.
You stop the screen sharing first.
Yeah. I think this sharing of screen takes a lot of bandwidth.
Okay, I've stopped. Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have stopped sharing actually. Can you hear me better?
Not yet. But your slides are still visible, Professor. Yeah.
Okay. Now
Yeah.
you are okay. Good.
Now it's right. Now it's fine.
Kenneth, you may want to say some concluding remarks, Kenneth.
Okay, I'm so sorry, everyone. Right, my concluding remarks I'd like to share with everybody is that we may not have the ability to save everyone, but even saving one that comes by our way, it is very important to us Okay, Sundram, can you hear me?
Professor, your bandwidth is really low. Your bandwidth is really low. That's what we get here. A notification coming here.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe let me leave it.
Yeah. Okay, moderator, you can take control, I think, now.
Yes, I think we have lost him because of the bad network. Audience have posted a question, very pertinent question to Team Singapore. They're asking, like, you've been using tech-based tools for quite some time now, and they want your opinion whether
Yes.
it is better to have a face-to-face learning, or is this technology-driven learning better than the classroom learning? That's what they're asking.
Okay.
Maybe Professor Sundram will be in a better position to answer this.
Okay, that's a very good question, actually. So online, there are many strategies to engage students online, and there are many benefits of online learning. For example, the important benefit of online learning is repeatability. That's one thing. And then is anytime, anywhere. So whether you are a fast learner, medium learner, or a slow learner, the repeatability is there. This is definitely a very good advantage in online learning. But sometimes online learning cannot fully replace the real face-to-face learning. For example, I teach electrical facilities. So
Right.
I teach them the wiring in the lab. So in this type of situation, yes, we can have virtual lab, but it is important for students to feel the cable, feel the power supply, and get the real effect itself. So in certain situations, especially like lab, it is online is not a very good substitute for a face-to-face lesson. But most of the lessons where cognitive thinking is involved, definitely online lesson is a very good way to go. I hope I answered the question.
Very well put, Professor Sundram. Very well put. Hope you've answered the question. Hope the audience are convinced about this. If we don't have any more questions, we'll now travel transatlantic and travel to Canada, where we're going to connect with Professor Arvind of Sheridan. Hi, Professor.
Hello. Hi.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Professor Arvind Venkatapati joining us from Sheridan, Canada. He's an alumnus of Alumni University, and he obtained his bachelor's degree in mechanical production engineering in 1994, and further pursued his studies and graduated in advanced design and manufacturing from University of Toronto. He's presently a professor at Sheridan College, Institute of Technology and Advanced Learning in the Faculty of Applied Science and Technology. Sheridan College Institute of Technology and Advanced Learning is also often called as Sheridan College Institute of Technology. It is also called as Harvard of Animation. Their animation program ranks #1 in the world. He heads the mechanical engineering design program and is also a Senate member in the institute. He is dedicated to helping students solve their academic issues and provide clarity for colleagues in regard to policies and procedures. Professor Arvind has participated in numerous committees and has many years of experience in the college system, and his enthusiasm for student success will help reform the future visions of education. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Arvind will now share a video, and then he'll be there to answer questions if you're going to pose to him, if any. Professor Arvind?
So first, my humble thanks to our distinguished Vice Chancellor and the panelists and fellow members and organizers and other members. So I prepared a video, so it has many more integrated videos in it. So I'm going to share that video now. Hopefully it's going to pause a little bit, but then it's going to get better. Hello, everyone.
I'm excited to join my fellow anomalians in this forum for giving me an opportunity to speak about the challenges in the future of education. Organizers have pulled an amazing feat in getting us all together to speak about the challenges in the future of education. I would like to address the challenges based on the Canadian landscape on what we did before and after the impact of the pandemic and how we adopted the industry for it. Many of these things were already addressed by my fellow panelists. However, I will address what we are doing for the future of education. Many colleges and universities have an online support system for their own platform where they post their course outlines, class plans, topics, assignments, project guidelines, evaluations, and feedback. And hand in hand, they seamlessly have a face-to-face instruction as well. Even though the online and hybrid model existed, many engineering courses were taught face-to-face. The challenge was to always improve the applied learning environment and make engineering meaningful rather than dry and theoretical. We always wanted to challenge the students and develop their critical thinking skills. To enhance this, we are using the CDIO approach to make engineering meaningful. The CDIO, which stands for Conceive, Design, Implement, and Operate, is gaining popularity all over the world, which was originally started at MIT. Most fundamental engineering courses are tied together with different levels of project, and progression of these projects get more skillful in higher years of learning. There is a matrix that we adopt to ensure that we apply the CDIO approach for all years of learning in the engineering program. The CDIO is also a huge topic by itself. If we start elaborating, it may take another hour. In the past month, most of our course delivery has switched to online platforms. So there were days where we said that engineering courses can never be taught fully online, but the pandemic has changed all that. We have to complete the delivery of courses on time and so that students can move forward to graduate, and there is no option except to hop on full online delivery. And the challenges in today's education is mainly on how to deliver resources of physical lab content and conduct exams virtually. How to get a handle on email inboxes from exploding due to the challenging questions from students and industrial partners. The workload has certainly quadrupled during these days. I'm sure many of you have experienced the same. On the other side, there were some pleasant surprises happening in the online platform as well. There was good attention span during online delivery of courses. There was flexibility in learning for students to watch recorded live content of lecture after their regular lecture time. The labs were also recorded as per procedure for students to watch and understand the functionality of the equipments, and they were provided with data that has to be solved later. Some of our labs went digital with simulators, and in future they're going to be mostly virtual environment with many of us adopting Industry 4, which are not very heavy on physical resources. And most students were happy to remote log in into our facilities to operate on various applications. Some courses, such as the project courses, where we collaborate with industry partners. We are also planning to adopt digital factory, which means usage of no paper, using real-time metrics, big data analytics, predictive and machine learning, and connecting them with ERPs and plant integration like SCADA and OEM. And also by using OEM equipments, we kind of use PLCs and so on. We also use additive manufacturing facilities, augmented reality and virtual reality design, which is also the future of advanced design and manufacturing. There are many industry projects that I can elaborate on, but I can't dive deeper because we're bound by some NDA agreements. We also contribute to the society by setting up financial assistance to students, and currently we are using additive manufacturing facilities to manufacture face shields in our labs to provide for our frontline workers. And there are many other research projects that are ongoing. So overall, the landscape is changing rapidly, and we have to adapt with public laws on how we use our lab spaces. And moving forward, we have more virtual environments with simulators and flexible learning. All this also depends on collecting the input data from our students and industrial partners. An active dialogue is on progress with all our stakeholders as things change dramatically every week. In future, we will take all these pieces that work well during this transition period and will adopt and continue with our commitments to provide quality learning environment to our students. So it's been a pleasure to join you all, and to gather more details, you're welcome to look at our Sharing Curiosities website. And once again, I would like to thank all the organizers who brought this.
Okay, I'm about to go on. So,
if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to address it. Thank you.
It was lovely watching this video, sir. It was a delight watching your video. We'll reserve the questions after the US friends from US finish their lectures. So we'll just put on hold the QA and we move on to the friends waiting in the United States. We have 3 experts joining us now from University of West Florida, United States. We have with us Professor Dr. Bhuvneshwari. We have with us Dr. Claudia Stani, and we have Dr. Michael Reynolds with us. First, let me introduce the first speaker, Dr. Bhuvneshwari. She's an alumnus of Alumni University, did a BE Electrical and Electronics, and ME Power Systems, and PhD in Electrical Engineering. She's got more than 15 years of experience teaching power engineering, and is an assistant professor of electrical and computer engineering. Her research areas include auction strategies in electricity markets, real-time power system modeling and simulation, using software tools, integration of distributed generation, storage, and plug-in hybrid vehicle into the grid, smart grid and microgrid grid scheduling and economics, and phasor measurement-based analysis. She taught at Alumni in India and at Florida State University before joining University of West Florida in 2012. She was a postdoctoral research assistant at Florida State University Center for Advanced Power System. She has worked for Office of the Naval Research. She has co-published more than 30 referred journal articles. Her publications include International Journal of Electrical Power and Energy Systems, the 6th IEEE International Conference on Cybernetics and Intelligent Systems, Expert Systems with Applications, Smart Grid, and Measurement. Presently, she teaches Electrical Energy Engineering, Electrical Energy Systems, along with other courses. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now present Professor Bhuvneshwari. Go ahead,
Thank you so much. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. Thank you to the Vice Chancellor, the audience, the faculty, and all my students who are listening in now. So it's a great honor to be a part of this session, to be talking about how the education system is evolving all over the world. Specifically today, we are going to be presenting, all 3 of us will be taking turns presenting about how the education trend in the United States is moving along. So Mahendra, can you please start the presentation?
Ma'am, you can do a share screen.
Do you want me to try that? Okay.
Do that. That's the best way to do it. So you can have control of your presentation. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So, as I said, we are going to be talking about the trends in education in the United States, how our usual face-to-face learning has kind of evolved under this pandemic scenario. And even otherwise, we were partly doing a lot of online classes in engineering and in other disciplines as well. So this presentation, I would like to start off with Dr. Claudia Stani. She's the director of the institute called as CUTLA. It's the Center for University Teaching, Learning, and Assessment. and she will start the presentation. Claudia, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Very good. Would you advance the slide then to the next one? Oh, I can advance them. Yay. All right. So what I'd like to talk about is our approach to learning outcomes assessment in teaching and learning at the University of West Florida. I was heartened to hear the earlier presentations because they're very similar to some of the things that we are doing here. First, I wanted to start off by talking about what kinds of learning outcomes we are focusing on for our undergraduate degrees. And at the University of West Florida, an undergraduate actually has two pieces to their curriculum. One piece is what we call general education. This is at least 30 semester hours, which is usually about 25% of the courses that contribute to the degree. When general education was first formally initiated in Harvard in 1945, it was set up with a real emphasis on content. It represented a breadth of knowledge across a variety of disciplines. And parts of that early orientation are still present in the UWF Gen Ed curriculum, and that's true for a lot of institutions across the United States, where our general education curriculum entails students taking 2 courses from each of 5 categories: mathematics, writing, arts and humanities courses, social sciences, and natural sciences. So you can get a sense of the breadth of exposure that these students have to content knowledge in a lot of different disciplines. The second component of the undergraduate degree is the learning outcomes that are associated with the disciplinary major. Those are the technical skills associated with the specific discipline, like biology or chemistry or computer science or engineering. So those two together comprise the learning outcomes for an undergraduate degree. So what we see in the United States recently is a little change in the way we emphasize those learning outcomes in general education, where we are shifting away from simply have that breadth of knowledge with an emphasis on content to skills. And I was very pleased to hear Dr. Sundaramas talk about the WEF skills, because these are the list of those skills is almost identical to the one that is presented by the Association for American Colleges and Universities, where they have identified what they call the essential learning outcomes. They did this in 2005. And they have been working hard to promote this model for general education since 2005. And these learning outcomes represent the 21st century skills that are valued by employers. Somehow I got muted. Can you hear me okay now? These essential learning outcomes include knowledge of human cultures, intellectual and practical skills. These include things like problem solving, creativity, and communication skills, personal and social responsibility skills, and some integrative and applied learning skills. And we'll see those in more specific list of these skills are presented here, and you can find these on the AAC&U website. And one of the interesting things about these learning outcomes that they have promoted for general education is that they are also very interested in the processes that institutions can use to assess student learning on those skills. So they have since developed, probably since about 2008 or 2009, they developed what they call the value rubrics, and they have a rubric for assessing every single one of these skills, and there are currently 16 of them. They are posted out on the AACNU website, and anybody can go out there and download this and look at those particular learning outcomes and the rubrics, and they can actually use them for assessing student learning in their own curriculum. So what does this look like for the Gen Ed curriculum at UWF? So our general education curriculum still has the distribution model structure. It's codified by Florida law that students are going to take courses in these 5 content areas. So we still have that distribution of, that's weird. We still have that distribution of knowledge, things that look like knowledge-driven courses that students must take. But then we also have, within that distribution area, we have identified the learning outcomes for those courses that are aligned with general education. And rather than think about the content of those courses that students are enrolled in, we are thinking instead about the thinking skills that students are developing while they are studying that particular content. And we organize those skills into 3 domains: communication skills, which is speaking and writing, critical thinking, including things like creativity and problem solving, and integrity values, learning outcomes that deal with disciplinary, professional ethics, and academic integrity. And oops, can we go back? These learning outcomes and this approach to skills development carry forward into our undergraduate programs and into our graduate programs, where we organize the learning outcomes that we assess students on in 4 domains. There are the content domains that reflect that disciplinary knowledge and skills that are represented by the major, whether it is computer science or engineering or mathematics or biology or whatever. And then there are also learning outcomes that have a disciplinary flavor in those other 3 domains in terms of speaking and writing, how they communicate as professionals in that discipline, the particular thinking and analysis and creativity skills that characterize that discipline, and then the professional ethics that are characterized in that discipline as well. Next slide, please. This is a little hard to read, but we have uploaded the PowerPoint, and you can see these in more detail there. These are the actual learning outcomes that were articulated. And so one of the interesting things about general education is that students may have 20 or 30 courses that they can choose from, say in natural sciences. They might take a course in biology, chemistry, physics, computer science, ecology, geography, cybersecurity. They only need to take 2 of those courses to satisfy their distribution requirement for general education. So it's very difficult to say they're going to learn this content or that content, but there's a common set of thinking skills that the natural sciences have that they articulate in that learning outcome. And for the natural sciences, it's a little, again, it's a little hard to read in this slide, but that learning outcome is that students will be able to evaluate scientific information using appropriate tools and strategies for the discipline. So this is a learning outcome that entails having the students learn to think like a natural scientist thinks about problems in the world. And that crosses over all of those courses. So it doesn't matter whether they take biology or physics or computer science, they're going to come away with that core thinking skill from that course that they carry on through the rest of their major. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Luan. Are you next?
Yes, I am next.
All right.
Mahendra, can you please move to the next slide? Yes. So with this transition to online learning at UWF, we have been following different types of online learning. We have a completely online course. I teach a completely online course in the summers, where most of the students will be working at an intern company, or they may be working or at a co-op. So this option gives them the flexibility to not come to the campus and just download the PowerPoints that we post in the e-learning system. We use an e-learning system called Canvas. So we upload the PowerPoints and then we post discussion boards. So the students can read the PowerPoint, can read a textbook, and then can come in and post what their idea about that particular chapter is. And then I also do asynchronous learning, where we have something called as a WebEx. And this WebEx tool allows the students also to log in at the same time. So if I teach at 8 o'clock, then the students get to log in at 8 o'clock, and I expect the students to attend. So they'll be live, and I'll know which students are attending and which ones are not, and they get the opportunity to ask questions. So we use this WebEx sessions, and also for those students who are not able to attend the live session, they also get to listen to a recorded lecture. The same lecture that I'm delivering online gets recorded using a recorder we use, which is called as a Panopto. So I post these recordings and the notes that I write on into the e-learning system, so the students can go back and review. So that reinforces their learning. So these are ways in which we are trying to assist the students with their learning, even though the course is delivered online. There is also the asynchronous learning, where we post pre-recorded lectures. It's not a live session, so there will not be any students attending the session at the same time. But it's still helpful because the instructor is still providing the technical background for the topic that they are teaching. And then we have this flipped classroom, which was actually new to me when I came here. We are all used to the traditional classroom strategy, where the instructor teaches in the class in a live classroom, where we have students and we assign them homeworks or some kind of an assignment that they do it at home. So this is the traditional classroom structure. But we also teach this flipped classroom, which has been proven to be really effective, where we have the students, we assign them some kind of a reading or some kind of a research assignment, or let them watch a video. So when they come to the class, they already know the fundamentals of what we are going to be talking about that day. So this flipped classroom technique is much more lively for the students. It also engages them, it motivates them, and it makes them learn by themselves in the beginning. But then when they come to the classroom, they interact with the faculty, so they can have their questions answered. And they can also be made to work in pairs or in teams, where they partner with their classmates, and they are assigned some problem which directly relates to what they already watched or what they already read at home. So they get to apply what knowledge they acquired from their at-home assignment. So this technique, this method, actually we implemented using some response tools. We can use either flashcards in the classroom. They can hold up their choices A, B, C, or D, or we also have something called as clickers, with which they can choose the options using those buttons. There's also options for web polling techniques. So these are the options that we use for flipped classroom strategy. And then the laboratories, when we were hit by the pandemic in March, it was really difficult for us to switch to remote labs, because being an engineering instructor, all of the labs required hands-on. Mostly the labs that I teach were very much hands-on. So it was a little bit difficult. It was a challenge for us to transition to remote labs, but the manufacturer of the equipment that we have in our labs had a simulation simulation component to it. So we were able to give the students almost an experience as if they are attending the actual lab. The only difference was they had to do it at home, and they were asked to do it individually rather than partnering in the labs. So that was something we did for the, for the remote labs. Can you please go to the next slide? So with all of these said and done, we want to still encourage higher impact practices. So higher impact practice is something which allows the students to remain engaged and also make the students successful in their educational goals. So we promote a lot of high impact practices and pedagogies that encourage higher order thinking skills and also deep learning. I've quoted some examples, one of which is the collaborative peer-to-peer instruction, which one of the speakers was mentioning about already. So here, what we do is we partner the students in teams or in pairs, and we assign them problems to solve, which helps them come up with different ideas. So they have diverse ideas coming from each of their team partners. So they develop their communication skills. They also develop their team player skills. So as Claudia was talking about earlier, we are trying to promote more skill-based knowledge rather than fact-based. Instead of assigning them fact-based work, we assign them skill-based, knowledge-based assignments. The next example that I have is assigning problem-based learning, where we discuss complex problems. We assign them problems in class, and then we make them solve the problems in class. It's like a tutorial class, but then they are again working on complex real-life problems. There is also case-based learning, where we discuss real-life, real-world scenarios, and we have the students go through those real-life scenarios and come up with solutions to solve those real-life problems. Then the major high impact practice that I am personally involved in is the undergraduate research. UWF has a undergraduate program. We also have a graduate program, but I'm all in for undergraduate research because it helps the students to think out of the box. It develops their critical thinking skills. And I typically embed this undergraduate research as a part of the course, where I assign them a small topic and they research on that topic, and then they write like a 1 or 2 page paper on that topic. So that kind of brings about their own critical thinking, and also it makes them to dig deep into that particular topic. So that also helps with the students' thinking skills. And then there is this service learning, which is more of community-based learning, where they get the opportunity to go out to the community. They develop some project that helps the community with something. Say, for example, they can develop a project where they can design a building that has lower energy costs, or they can also come up with a project that will help disabled person to get up and walk instead of falling. So there are a lot of community-based learning that is also among one of the important high impact practices. And then we also have a lot of students working on internships. And then we also have the final year capstone project, where they have to start from the design stage of a project, and then they get to build on the project. They have to order the parts, they have to build the project, and then in the end of the 2-semester long project, they get to demonstrate that project, that working project, to the mentors. So we are focusing on shifting from very content heavy courses. We don't encourage PowerPoints. I would not use PowerPoints. I don't use a fact-based testing either. So instead of using all of these, if we can go in for skill-based courses that kind of engage the students in active learning, where the students get to participate and learn by themselves, being self-motivated. It also requires critical thinking, and then it also makes them apply their disciplinary knowledge, and also helps them provide solutions to real-world problems. So all of these high-impact practices that we follow for face-to-face classes can be transitioned for online courses as well. So these there are some online course high-impact practices that we can use, like the undergraduate research that can be embedded as a part of your online course. There is also project-based learning, which one of my colleagues is using. He is actually teaching a course which is cybersecurity for industrial control systems. So he makes the students build projects in class using Raspberry Pis or Arduinos. So they get to learn with a hands-on experience of building the project in class when the instructor is present. So that is something called as project-based learning. So all of these high-impact practices are very useful, and they can be transitioned, they can be adapted for online courses as well. The next speaker who's going to continue is Dr. Reynolds.
Yes, hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I want to talk a little bit about online learning more specifically, some of the opportunities and some of the drawbacks and difficulties and challenges of online learning. So to talk first about the opportunities, certainly we understand that it's flexible and that it can get more students involved. That's one thing that's just wonderful about teaching online, is the flexibility it offers, especially for students who are working, who have family concerns, other things like that. But one thing that's often missed about online learning is that it gives us the opportunity to hear from the best. So the best videos, the best speakers, the best opportunities to see things that, instead of just being in a classroom and hearing from one person, you have the opportunity to share things all over the world to your students. Okay, and so that's something that, and as we continue to develop online courses, we can continue to develop high quality online courses that prove that we can assess and we can prove that students are learning. So many more people can learn this way, instead of it being limited by the infrastructure, the classroom, how many seats we have. Now, so many more people can learn. And if it's done right, it can be lower cost. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not lower cost. And so there is an investment that does take place early on. But if it's done right, it can actually lower costs. Can you go to the next slide? All right, the challenges of online learning, certainly there is a social isolation. We know that students learn better when they're together in many aspects. They can learn from each other, and it can be difficult to do in an online environment. There are ways we can overcome that, but that's always a challenge. And certainly access to technology, Wi-Fi, bandwidth, we know that that's a challenge in a lot of places. It was a challenge here, even in Florida. The technical literacy of students as well, getting things to work is not always easy. We think it's going to be easy, but it's not. And certainly working together to solve problems and having active learning in an online environment can be difficult. It can be done, but it can be very difficult. And so the lack of hands-on learning is also something that can happen, though there are ways to overcome that, which I'll talk about. Okay, and it is difficult for us as faculty to assess whether you're learning in an online environment, because we are more limited in what we can do, and there are concerns that we have about academic integrity, or also known as cheating. That is something that as faculty we're concerned about. Can you go to the next slide? So ABET is the premier accrediting institution for engineering here in the US. It does also accredit engineering degrees around the world. I'm an ABET evaluator, program evaluator myself. And I know that sometimes when we start talking about online, we start getting concerns about accreditation. We start getting concerns about ABET. But ABET does accredit online programs, and they have to meet the same criteria as regular programs, okay? And so right now, ABET just changed their criteria about a year ago. And instead of having the traditional, what we call A through K, now they have 7 outcomes that they want all engineering programs to have, whether they're in the US or anywhere in the world, okay? And these are things that we want and expect out of our engineering students. So ability to identify, formulate, and solve problems. Well, that's kind of obvious, right? And ability to design, apply engineering design, yes. But also point 3 is very important. The ability to communicate effectively with a wide range of audiences. And point 4 is also critical, to have ethical and professional judgment, okay? And point 5, to work in a team, okay? And that can be difficult online, but there are ways to do that. There are many industries right now that have collaborations all around the world. And so we need to teach our students to be able to do that. Number 6, to be able to do experiments. And number 7, to apply new knowledges and keep having a lifelong learning. That's very important, okay? So ABET recognizes that online is growing, and already there are ABET accredited online degrees. In fact, you can search, if you search online for ABET online degrees, you can find a number of schools that already are doing this, have online degrees, and that seems to be growing. So can you go to the next slide? I am the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Online Engineering Education, and I wanted to share some observations of things that are going on in the engineering education research world. And so obviously there's been a lot of change with the pandemic and with a lot of movement of universities going online. And so here's just some things that have been happening over the last 10 years, really. We've had this journal for about 10 years. One thing that we've shown is that students can learn engineering online. We have many documented cases where students have been assessed and they're learning online. So we know it can happen. We know they can do it well. We've seen a rapid growth in the online engineering master's program. And so many schools here in the US have online master's degrees, and I'm sure across the world as well. That's been probably the first wave of online learning, has been at the master's level. The online lab development is much slower. In fact, it's been very slow over the last 5 years, but then recently, in the last year, it has gotten a lot faster, and there's a lot more innovation in this space. And so I expect there to be a lot more exciting things to come in that space. So here's some future trends for online engineering education. Certainly we're going to see more virtual labs and more online labs. We're already seeing that in chemistry, we're seeing that in biology, but we're going to start seeing that a lot more in engineering. Also, there's more kits and portable lab experiments. You know, the cost of so many of these things, particularly in the electronics realm, is a lot less. And so we have the ability now to send out kits and small mobile experiments. So we can still do some online, but just do it in a way that is more personal and just more distributed to everyone. And we can do it at low cost. We're going to start seeing more online degrees in all engineering disciplines, not just computer or electronics, but I think we're starting to see more mechanical, and eventually I think we're going to see some civil and some other types of engineering as well. And then certainly the exciting thing that I think is starting to emerge is the usage of a virtual reality in engineering education and kind of going into that space. And again, it's slow right now, but it's getting there. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Reynolds. Thank you very much, Professor Bhuvaneshwari and Professor Claudia. It was a very eye-opening deliberation about how the online learning, teaching learning will evolve over a period of time. As we speak, we have a few questions cropping up. So I'll just post those questions. There's a question which says, what are the kind of courses that you teach in completely online platforms? Are there any open source tools or software you suggest that can be used?
So I teach a completely online course, and I'm sure Dr. Reynolds is also teaching a few. For my online course, for the completely online course, it was on sustainable power systems. So it was more about how do we integrate. It was a lot of theory about how do we integrate the distributed energy resources into the grid. What are they? How do we integrate them? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? And what is the sort of research that's going on in that field? So it was more of a theory course, and there was a good textbook for that course. So I developed PowerPoints, and I posted those PowerPoints. And then every week they had to take part. They have to answer a quiz, or they have to take part. They have to contribute to a discussion on a discussion board where they come in and I provide them with a title for the discussion. It could be a question. It could be like a debate sort of thing, whether this is good or bad. So I give them the option to choose sides depending on their opinion. So some of them are opinion based, some of them are fact based. So there are a lot of learning outcomes that we write down for these courses so that they meet all the rubrics. There is also something called as a certification, which is called as Quality Matters, QM. And this QM does a review, an internal review of the online course. They also go for external review. So they make sure that even if we are delivering the course completely in an online environment, it still meets the outcomes and the material that we are providing online and what the students are learning, all of these match and all of these meet the student learning outcomes, the course outcomes, so on and so forth. I'm not sure if there is any open source platform for this kind of an online learning, because the universities have to purchase that particular e-learning board. It could be, there are a variety of e-learning tools that are available in the market these days. As I mentioned, we use something called as Canvas. We used e-learning before. We are using Canvas right now. I have seen Blackboard or another name for that software, but I'm not sure if these are available open source. The university has to purchase these software, these packages, so that the faculty and students can log in with their university provided credentials, and they can access those material for that course.
Okay.
I answered the question.
Yeah, I think audience will be convinced. And do you take the social media for online learning? Do you take the social media?
I take or I check?
I mean, do you use social media for online learning?
For my courses, I do not.
Okay.
I do not use social media. I use only the material that's provided in the textbooks and in the research publications that I see that are, the topic that I teach, the sustainable power systems, is more of a trending field. It's changing every day. So I do check what's the latest research going on in that area so that I can provide the students more of an updated content and not go with something that has been in existence for decades.
Okay. So fine, teaching, learning is fine. On the evaluation part, what kind of softwares are there available to see to that, the examinations, the end semester examinations are held in the same sanctity as we do in the conventional methods? Have you encountered this?
I can answer a part of this question, and I think Dr. Reynolds and Dr. Stanley can also chime in. So what we do is when we assign quizzes, when we assign homeworks and exams online, we have this e-learning system comes with something called as a lockdown browser, which kind of prevents them from opening up another tab in their computer. The students, if they want to find a solution for a problem, because most of the solution manuals are available online for all of the textbooks, and they can just search online, Google search, and then copy paste it into the box. But this lockdown browser, what it does is it prevents them from opening up another tab. Once they are in the page of the quiz, they cannot open up another tab. That is something we use for all of these online courses. So this is for them to not copy paste from another tab. The second important tool that we use is called as a Respondus Monitor. And what this Respondus Monitor does is every laptop and every computer comes with a video camera now. So it allows them to turn on their video camera. So when they're taking an exam, they cannot chit chat with a neighbor, or they cannot talk on the phone, and they cannot do anything else because whatever they are doing is being recorded by the video camera.
That's called proctored.
Yes, proctored exams.
Proctored. So we came across something called a VBox toolbox, where they offer this proctored examination this thing. So can you name a few toolboxes which is available in the market where you can adopt taking up?
So what we use, that's what I'm aware of. What we use is called as a Respondus Monitor. Respond,
okay.
Respond us, US, and then monitor. So it monitors the students taking exams, and it actually gives the instructor an option to watch the recording later on. So if you see similar steps or similar, when you see the same content in two students' exams, then you kind of have the suspicion that maybe they cheated. So then you can go back and watch the recording because it records. It's not just a live thing. It records the students during when they are taking their exams. So it gives the option to the instructor to watch the recordings later on to check what was going on.
Okay, thank you. To Professor Reynolds, teaching hardcore engineering, how do you find these online courses will evolve over a period of time? Will they be able to give the same effect as your conventional teaching? Will there be disruption more, disruption less? How do you look at it over a period of time?
So are you talking just about evidence of students being able to learn online?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are they going to grasp it? Is it going to be as effective as a conventional face-to-face classroom teaching?
Yeah. Actually, there's been a lot of research in that over the last 5-10 years, and some of it's been in my journal, some of it's been in other places, but there's been a lot of studies even going into the workforce that students are no different when they come out of having more online versus less, as long as they have demonstrated their knowledge and they've had opportunities to do some things hands-on with that could be in a variety of formats. Now, there has not been a lot of research on completely online degrees, but I know that there's been research into students who've had maybe half their program online or 3/4 online. Then they don't do any worse in the workforce. They seem to have the same knowledge as long as the assessments, if you're looking at assessments, they do just as well. And when they do just as well, they tend to do well in the workforce. We can't see any difference with them. Now, the completely online in every situation, there may be some issues that we don't know yet. But so far, the results have been positive.
Okay, thanks a lot, Professor. That's very encouraging.
I can also speak.
The next question is to Dr. Claudia. Ma'am?
I was going to say I could speak to the online equivalence to face-to-face classes. There was actually a study done in about 2008, which reviewed about 40 years of research comparing online learning to face-to-face learning. And I can give you the citation for that later on. I don't have it at the tip of my fingers right now. But what they found was that the important thing for student learning is not the modality of the course delivery, whether it's online or face-to-face, but it all centers on the quality of the pedagogy, the quality of the teaching. Are you asking students to actively engage in the material? Are you using problem-based learning? Are you using case studies? Are you using those active learning strategies that the earlier presenters talked about? Or are you just doing lecture and exams? those are the things that make the difference for the quality. And whether you do it online or whether you do it on face-to-face doesn't matter. It's the pedagogy that's important.
Okay. So this evolution of new model, do you think the online websites offering courses are very competitive to the universities, huge universities? Few online courses being offered by a small academies. Are they going to really make universities vulnerable?
Well, I'll answer that. I don't think so. I think that there's still value in having an accredited degree, and there's still value in having a university experience. I do think that there is a space for things like that. I think there's a space for learning in other places. Certainly the university is not the only place, but I think that there's still going to have value in having that degree and having that be accredited.
Totally agree with you, Professor. The experience is going to be totally different. So if there are no questions.
Abhi, I have a question to Dr. Bona.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Bona, can you mention one or two rubrics to measure the learning outcomes?
So what we do for assessment. So for assessment, so as I mentioned, I go with quizzes and I use discussion boards. So it makes the students more engaged. They are coming up with their own ideas, and they're talking about what they understood, what their opinion is. So I kind of mix up more of opinion-based debates and fact-based debates. So these are some of the assessment tools that I use. And for teaching, I go with PowerPoints. I also post my video recordings. So these are some of the tools that I use.
I have another question for the previous speaker. When there are challenges for the online learning, how do this ABET accreditation is given for engineering degree, both undergraduate as well as master's degree? Is it accredited by ABET for online undergrad as well as master's program in the US?
ABET does not accredit master's degrees. ABET only accredits undergraduate degrees. But yes, they do accredit completely online degrees. There's quite a few.
Okay.
Thank you then. Thank you, sirs. If there are no questions, shall we call it a day?
Yes.
So I take the opportunity to thank the Vice Chancellor for being with us today. I thank the organizers for organizing a wonderful session where we had people handpicked to speak about online courses and how the education model is going to evolve. I thank Professor Raghusundaram, Professor Andy Lee, Professor Kenneth, Professor Arvind, Professor Bhuvaneshwari, Professor Michael Reynolds, Professor Claudia, for being with us and deliberating extensively on how the online teaching learning model is going to evolve and how to get the students engaged on the online courses. So thank you very much. I thank the viewers who supported us by watching the 2.5 hours of extensive deliberations. So thank you one and all, and good day and good night.